Oh, it's looking at me. Don't look at me. This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob is completely transparent. I promise you this. Eve reveals a deep, dark secret about Christianity. And Tim has a new tool, and with a terrible name. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and I'm speaking to you within a can, apparently. That was weird. The music is, like, terrible. What's going on with that? Go away, music. Wow. So we had a couple of technical issues, and we were starting up the show, and the music got all messed up. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's just how it goes.
It's just how it goes.
We'll refund your ticket price.
Yes, we will totally refund 100% of your ticket price. This is the Virtual Skeptics. If you're watching, thank you. Let me introduce the crew. We got a crew. Here's the crew. First up, we got Bob the Hat Blaskiewicz, CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. Next up, we have Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality and Insight without an S at skeptic.com. I would continue to say that. Don't stop. Finally, Tim Farley, blogger at SkepTools and Insight without an S at skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor and creator of What's the Harm, and former JRUF fellow. Thank you all for being here. You're awesome. I swear, you are. Say hi.
Hello.
Aww. Hello.
How you doing? So there you go. I got Thetans. I'm sorry. So, we do a few things when we start up. That was one thing. First thing we do is remind everyone who's watching that you can too. You too can, and I'm going to get in the right order one of these times, participate by commenting on the YouTube or posting Q&A, a question on the Q&A app on Google+. Or you can tweet with hashtag the Virtual Skeptics, and we'll do our best to get your funniness, awesomeness, whatever it is, or just plain inaneness on the show. Next thing we usually do is I bring it over to the awesome, the spectacular, the fabulous Tim Farley.
The very tall.
Yeah, and the very tall, for this week's trivia question.
Yes, this week's trivia question concerns a famous hoax known as the Kinderhook plates.
Kinderhook.
The Kinderhook plates. What religion are the Kinderhook plates associated with?
Plates. The Kinderhook plates. Is that a
Careful.
What? What? My thought was those collector's plates. They advertise at like 2:00 in the morning on Sundays.
Franklin.
Like Elvis on them? No. Do they have a Kinderhook plate? Get for $19.95.
Good guess.
3 installments.
That's not it.
No. Okay. Just trying. Our secondary quiz.
The only true religion.
What?
Elvis, the only true religion.
Oh yes, that's
right.
true.
Of course.
Elvis has left the building.
Has not.
Has too. The next, the little thing that I do, because no one even bothers to guess, is the two screens behind me. If you can tell what they are, please comment somewhere where I'll see it, and I will give you a virtual pat on the back.
So basically, you are putting those there to show that you have 4 computers. Is that what you're trying to do?
Pretty much, yes. This is actually, my primary defense against the robot apocalypse. Is just letting them know that I can brute force attack them at any time.
Oh.
So there, and there are many others that you cannot see. So be afraid. Okay then, let's get
slightly
on
concerned.
with the show. Let's get on with the show. That was not my very best accent. We had this whole conversation about accents earlier and how bad
You should have been there.
Yes,
it was really
awesome.
good.
Yes. Guess who goes first this week? The guy who's been ditching the show for 2 weeks. So there's the music, right there. That's right. We're gonna talk about robots. Now they're gonna kill us.
Oh, that poor man in his bald spot.
That's me. Shh. Okay, so we're gonna watch this for a bit because this is awesome. Robots transforming and then back into cars, and then we got these things that are blowing fire. Oh my God! So, as a lot of you know, last week was Robotics Week, which means that it's a week that we kind of do once a year that has all kinds of robotics stuff going on all over the country and the world. Companies that do robotics, NASA, other organizations do special events and various other things where they do outreach. You guys can go check out the robots and stuff like that. I know that the group that I work for at NASA here in Goddard Space Flight Center did a bunch of cool stuff about the work they're doing on their Facebook page, which I'm going to link it to in the show notes. But the coolest thing ever that happened last week is the return of the Robo Games. Now, this is a regular yearly conference until last year. Apparently, there was problems pulling one off last year. They did a Kickstarter to try to fund another one. They managed to pull it off, and this year they had another one. The coolest thing about the Robo Games now. I know that we recently talked about the return of the robot fighting on TV, but the way that works is that you have to kind of be invited to compete. This is open to anybody. It's like a conference. You can just go and show up, register your robot, and fight it, or various other things. They actually have 50 different events.
Is it RC or is it like fully autonomous?
Most of the stuff you're going to see in this video, most stuff that happens with the Robo Games is remote controlled.
Okay.
RC. They have some categories listed. Now, it's not clear from their list how many competitors were in each, and some of them may have had few or none. But make you an idea of the kind of things that they had set up for competition. Yeah. You can watch that and enjoy it while I read this stuff off. There's a humanoid class where they had freestyle competition, which I'm not entirely sure what that was. I'm not sure. I couldn't find videos on it. They have a kung fu lightweight and middleweight competition. They have bipedal races, stair climbing, and sumo. Yeah. They have regular sumo classes with different weights where they can... You know what? They actually have a whole bunch of autonomous sumo classes. And there's very few videos that are online yet. This is just last week. So, and a lot of the official video is going to be produced to a DVD. That was kind of part of the Kickstarter. So if you're really into this stuff and you want to check it out, I think Grant Hamahara, who hosted like one day of this event, is going to be on the DVD as well. So go check it out. Robogames.net. If you want to check it out now, there's a bunch of links there. They have robot soccer. They have various just see, these are just open categories where like best of show, like best spot of the show. Firefighting is a category. Isn't that cool? Ribbon climber. I'm not even sure what that is. I assume it's just climbing, like a rope or something. They have a whole art category and a beam category, which I think is a robotic kit that you can build stuff with, not a weapon, unfortunately. There's a bunch of Junior League stuff, and there's some clips in this video of like the mini sumo leagues and some of the Junior League stuff. The combat leagues, which you're watching right now, I think most of the clips that are in this are of the heavyweight, and there's one of my favorites right
there. What the hell is that?
See the two spinning wheels? That thing is awesome, man. There's like two great big flywheels, and it just grabs on and throws stuff. It's awesome. The weight classes they have.
Oh my God!
I know. The weight classes they have are anything from about 5 ounces, which is the lowest class, to up to 100 kilograms, which is about 220 pounds. So this is, most of the stuff is a heavyweight class, and they have like huge flywheels and flippers and fire, and it was just awesome to watch. Yeah. There's some really good clips in this, and there's a bunch of other videos I'll link to. Most of them are linked to off the website, but this is some of the coolest human-involved robot stuff ever. Go check it out. Okay. Yes.
And someone is putting the robot out.
What?
It was flexing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a better. Make Magazine did a clip. Did a montage video. That I'm not going to put on here because it'll get us a takedown notice. But go check that one out as well. I'll link to that one. They also have commentary and interviews of some of the robot operators and some of the people involved in putting it on. It is a pretty damn cool thing. And someday I will get out there and maybe compete. Maybe get a robot team together and compete. That would be pretty awesome. This time it was in San Mateo, California, and of course it was April 3rd to the 5th. It was 2 weekends ago, beginning of Robot Week. And yes, you can buy their DVD on their website and learn about all the teams and all the events. It's pretty darn cool. They have, because anyone can enter this, it's not like some of the other competitions where you have to be kind of invited or associated with some kind of organization. They get competitors from all over the world. And they've got at least 25 different countries listed here on the website. So. And some of them are pretty darn cool. Unfortunately, last week I missed most of Robotics Week because I was in Florida doing field research.
The Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, apparently, because of the humanoidness of all of the animatronics down there in Orlando, Florida, it is my opinion that that's where self-awareness will happen first. So there you go. That's pretty much all I have.
I'm just watching robots kill each other.
Yeah, that video is awesome. I'll be linking to these. And look at that. Someone actually guessed on my videos. Thank you. Thank you for guessing. Who's next? Bob is next. Bob is going to talk about things and stuff.
Things and stuff?
Yeah, things and stuff.
Wow, I really should have brought up my story. Because I completely forgot. I was hypnotized by robots killing each other.
You want to watch some more? Here you go.
Oh my gosh.
A robot.
There's one section where there's just one of them just throws flames. It like grabs onto the other one and just burns it for like 5 minutes. It's pretty awesome. And like pieces flying off. I'm trying to think of what kind of plexiglass or whatever it is they cover this arena with.
It's got to be bulletproof. You know? So, okay.
So, there you go.
All right, so.
Non-robot stuff goes now.
All right, non-robot stuff. Okay, so yesterday the World Health Organization issued a statement. The WHO. I see what you did there. All right, so they issued a statement that applies to all clinical trials that involve human subjects, and it's actually really kind of interesting. By way of background, publicly available registries for clinical trials are now widely available, and sometimes, registering a trial publicly is a prerequisite for results to even be considered for publication in major peer-reviewed journals. As a result, a lot of data has been made available to researchers about what percentage of clinical trials are reported after they close. And according to the WHO, and this is a quote, multiple analyses have confirmed that a substantial number of clinical trials remain unreported several years after study completion, even in the case of large randomized clinical trials. And, there's something about this that's actually kind of sinister because people are volunteering their bodies and their lives to be in these clinical trials, and all results deserve to be reported, positive or negative. So,
yes, absolutely.
What is the content of these trials that are not being reported? We can't really know for any individual case right now. However, studies that have positive results we know tend to be favored for publication over, things that, that have no effect or benefit. And that seems to be, sexy results will get you published. Editors choose sexy papers, and and there's also the additional problem that people who are doing the research may not want to publicize bad results. So let's take a hypothetical example of, say, a drug that is designed to treat high blood pressure. The company that's producing it and is sponsoring the trials recruits patients for 5 studies, and when the results are in, there is no effect seen or slightly negative effect compared to the standard of treatment that the control arm is receiving, and so that's in 4 out of 5 of the trials that you see nothing or not as good as standard of care. In that last one, you might see a slight benefit, and if you only publish that last that 5th study,
Yeah.
you'll get this illusion of the study being better than it in fact is. So people might be excused, physicians for instance might be excused for thinking that it has showed a slight improvement over a standard of care, when actually you're looking at the normal distribution curve of a drug that's no better than standard of care, right? So
and this is why you need repeatability and
repeatability and transparency, honestly, is
Yeah.
what it's about. And so in their announcement, the World Health Organization reiterated that researchers have a responsibility to patients and to the public to publish all of their results. And they make specific recommendations about how to do this. Quote, all clinical trial registry sites are to be updated as necessary to include final enrollment numbers achieved and the date of actual study completion defined as the last data collection time point for the last subject for the primary outcome measure. And they set a timetable for when this information should be released. Following the end of the study, for instance, quote, the main findings of clinical trials are to be submitted for publication in a peer-reviewed journal within 12 months of study completion and are to be published through an open access mechanism unless there's a specific reason why open access cannot be used, or otherwise made available publicly at most within 24 months of study completion. In addition, the key outcomes are to be made publicly available within 12 months of study completion by posting to the results section of the primary clinical trial registry. Where a registry is used without a results database available, the results should be posted on a free-to-access, publicly available, searchable institutional website for the regulatory sponsor, funder, or principal investigator. And so what they're saying is that at the very least, within 12 months, you should be able to get basic toxicity, effectiveness, and enrollment data out there. It's very low-res type stuff. And the WHO goes one step further and says that past trials should be put on these registries as well. These changes have been welcomed by people supporting the All Trials campaign. The co-founder, Ben Goldacre, said of this announcement by the WHO, quote, I'm not going to do an accent, by the way. So, yeah. This is very positive. I don't speak as fast as Ben Goldacre does.
He does speak kind of fast, yeah.
He does. He's anyway, this is very positive, clear statement from the WHO, and it's very welcome. But withheld trials are already in breach of multiple existing codes, declarations, and even laws. Delivering change will require more than good intentions. We need individual accountability from a robust public audit. Only this can show us exactly which researchers, companies, institutions, funders, and treatments are the best and the worst for withheld data. With this individually accountable data, we can finally reward good practice, learn from the best performers, and ensure that those withholding information are held fully to account. So Goldacre wants to make public auditing a thing in order to ensure that there is compliance. As he said in a paper published in PLOS Medicine, so the Public Library of Science Medicine, alongside these recommendations from the WHO, quote, producing accessible knowledge for clinical decision-making is the key purpose of a trial. Once a trial has been conducted at great cost and left unreported, then the small and final marginal cost of making its results available represents better value for money than almost any other step in the research process, which is well put.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I can tell, the WHO statement does not have any force of law behind it. However, it provides a framework and specific language for policymakers, regulators, and researchers to incorporate into their own working documents. So this is a heavy hitter coming out in favor of full transparency, which is extremely important.
Yeah.
And is likely to have a ripple effect.
My first thought is how much. I mean, essentially, what they're trying to do is push for standards, some kind of standards for medical research on a global scale, something that's independent of country. How much influence are they going to actually have? I mean, do you have any idea of who's might be listening to this? Who's going to change policy?
Would be institutional review boards. It would be clinical sponsors. It would be the researchers themselves. It would be lawmakers. It strikes me. Like I said, it doesn't have force of law behind it.
Yeah.
It has force of highly influential standard setter.
Yeah.
So we had to wait and see to see who listens.
Right. There is auctoritas is what we have here. We have. It's like the Emperor of Rome, just not ordering it, just suggesting that it should happen, and then it occurs. You know, the WHO is making a very pointed recommendation.
Yeah, it's a very influential group that has done quite a lot of good work to back up what they're talking about. So, yeah.
And I think it's unkind of you to compare them to the emperors of Rome, who were mostly.
Really?
I was wondering if he was going to call you on that.
Caligula did not have auctoritas. He was not that kind of emperor. Now Augustus, he had auctoritas, baby.
I got your tortas right here.
Right here, in my toga.
In my toga.
Wow.
Now I'm waiting, like, for the NIH to assassinate the World Health Organization.
Yeah, there's no legal mechanism to remove the WHO from the public limelight, so
That's true.
it's gonna, well, I guess the mechanism would be burying bits of metal into them. But anyway,
I think
just
we
saw that
may
X-File
have
episode.
stretched the metaphor.
a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I always go to the ethical situation regarding the participants whenever I think about this issue. Could you imagine being in a trial like that and maybe suffering through side effects of a drug, or maybe even being killed by a test drug in a trial, and then your family finds out later that the trial data was never even published?
Yeah.
And so your relative died for science, and no science resulted.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a supreme betrayal when a researcher doesn't show their work.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unconscionable.
Do you think it's an economic? I mean, you think that economic reasons are the main reason why that there's tending toward cherry picking? I guess is not really.
No, this is a type of cherry picking. This is a cherry pick study.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably a strong motivator. You can't always. I'm sure that researchers can justify or rationalize the reasons why results might be swept aside.
It's not always purely economic. I mean, a lot of times it is when a drug company doesn't get the result they want, and they don't want people to know that the result was bad. But sometimes it's just it was a negative study, and that's not very interesting to publish. It's like, hey, we looked for this, we didn't find it. Okay, boring.
Yeah, I guess it's complicated as well because, I mean, poorly executed studies are actually sometimes harmful. Yeah. Because they add to the data set, but not always excluded because of their poor quality, poor execution. So, yeah.
That goes to an ethical issue, too. You shouldn't be doing poorly designed studies on human subjects. So.
Mistakes happen. People don't follow protocols. Maybe it wasn't designed properly to eliminate the economic side effects of.
Well, one of the things that there are lots of ways that drug companies can design their trials to not fail. One of them would be
that's what I was thinking.
Uh-huh.
One of the reasons they do double blind is to eliminate the human factor. And sometimes, if you don't design your study correctly, or you don't know the whole picture to eliminate problems like that, then you may end up with a study that you publish, but you realize that the data is worthless because you find out later you didn't have proper controls.
Right. Or there are other even kind of sneaky things that people do. So let's say you have a drug and you identify 12 possible outcomes, and then there is a slight signal for one outcome. So you ignore the other,
Right.
I always give it the benefit of the doubt.
That's one way of fudging the data, and
yeah.
and that's kind of dishonest. You should have one primary outcome, and that's what you're measuring.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, and it's at all levels, I think, of the research process. Error can creep in and increase margins of uncertainty at all levels. So
yeah,
it's amazing we're here at all, people. Oh, another interesting thing you can do is to compare something to a placebo, which is the lowest bar possible.
Yep.
Right.
Yes, and I know you're implying things with that statement, and
yes.
So yes, we're very familiar with that kind of thing. Any more questions? Nothing from the Twitters. Nothing from the comment trackers. Nothing. Oh, there's a hello crew. Hi, Andrew. On Q&A. That's not a question, but hi, Andrew, anyway. So, moving right along. Eve is going to talk about Jesus. She's going to talk about Jesus because when you get some Jesus up in here. Okay, that was one of my.
What the hell was that?
Accents.
Yeah.
That was having a stroke. That wasn't an accident.
Actually, my eye's drooping, so maybe.
Give him a break. He has a fever, and he keeps falling off his bike.
Yes.
It's true.
That's true. Should I tell that story again, or are we just going to move along? Let's move along.
Yeah.
Move right along.
Okay. Last week, Salon posted a hard-hitting investigative report on a nasty secret of Christianity.
Ooh.
As the headline declared, Jesus went to hell, the Christian history churches would rather not acknowledge. So it turns out Jesus was not the Messiah. He was a very naughty boy.
Which makes him awesome. Oh.
Jesus, the Savior, the Redeemer, Son of God, one person of the triune God, is in hell, damned forever. So this really is shocking news that turns Christianity on it. Wait, what? They're talking about the harrowing of hell? Oh, for fuck's sake. All right. Let's start again.
I like that we don't appeal to a general audience here.
Christ the Redeemer, Christ the Savior, descended into hell and saved and redeemed the righteous pre-Christian dead before ascending into heaven. Ooh, scandal!
But not the Jews. Nothing. I said not the Jews.
The Salons,
because
the righteous.
Righteous pagans, and the Old Testament.
Never mind.
Prophets would definitely have been.
Yeah, that's true. All those Jewish people.
Yeah.
They're all frolicking with the Jesus.
So.
It's a mitzvah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know exactly what a mitzvah is. So.
I'm going for a joke and it didn't come, so go ahead.
Well, the Salon story by Ed Simon first appeared actually not in Salon, but on Religious Dispatches on April 2nd, right before Easter, and appropriately a day after April Fool's Day. Religious Dispatches is hosted on USC's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism's website, and the fact that such a prestigious organization is involved with such a very bad article is quite disturbing. The author, Ed Simon, is a PhD candidate in English. Making us look bad, Ed.
Yeah.
At Lehigh University, he focuses on religion
That's
and
where
literature
Michael
in the
Behe is.
17th. That's right.
Lehigh, yeah.
Yeah, he
Lehigh,
focuses on
Behe,
religion and
Yahoo,
literature in the 17th and
Yahoo.
18th century. I'm now a bit worried about Lehigh's English department.
Yeah.
He is the assistant editor of, wait for it, the Journal of Heresy Studies, which is kind of awesome sounding, and one of the founding members of the International Society for Heresy Studies. And almost everything he says in the article is wrong, or technically true but silly and or misleading. So he begins by saying, "It was Saturday that Jesus went to hell." This is one phrase that Christians, whether mainline or evangelical, Catholic or Protestant, will likely not hear from the pulpit this week. He continues, "The 4th century Apostles' Creed tells us that following his crucifixion, but before his resurrection, Jesus descended to the dead. The Athanasian Creed of at least a century later is more explicit. Christ descended into hell." Okay, first of all, he puts the apostrophe in the wrong place in Apostles' Creed. It does not refer to just one apostle.
Heretic.
Second, okay, let's see what the Athanasian Creed says in Latin, the likely language of its original composition.
Is that plural too?
Is what plural?
What you said.
Sure.
Which creed are we talking about now?
Yes.
Oh, the Athanasian Creed? No, that is not plural. No apostrophe. You don't have to worry about it.
It's a
but
lesser
probably
creed.
not written by Athanasius.
It's
So
less popular.
in Latin, what does it say? It says, "descendit ad inferos." Now, conversely, the Apostles' Creed says, "descendit ad inferos." So, wait. That's the same thing.
Silly.
So, Christians won't hear about Jesus going to hell at church unless they recite the Apostles' Creed, as many Catholics, Anglicans, Episcopalians, Lutherans, and other Christians do at every single service. Worst cover-up ever.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Simon says...
No, Simon didn't say.
Contemporary congregations will often translate hell into a more palatable death or the grave. There's something unseemly in the idea of Jesus among the murderers. I think he means murderers, but he said murderers. Rapists, fornicators, and heretics of hell. And yet it was central to Christological accounts of salvation for 2 millennia that God himself be present in the lowest rung of creation to justify the redemption for all mankind. Well, they may substitute death of the grave because it really refers to the world of the dead, not specifically a place of punishment, because he was rescuing, again, the righteous pagans. So to Catholics, it's limbo, and there are many different names for it. But it's not...
Limbo?
Huh?
Went to limbo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purgatory.
Yeah.
But limbo and purgatory are different things.
Right, he didn't go to purgatory. He went
was
to
made up later.
purgatory.
Okay.
Purgatory didn't exist
I did
then.
claim that I know nothing. Okay.
So limbo, yeah. And there are other names for it too, but it's not like the idea of the fiery hell that most people think of when they think of hell. Despite the fact that the word hell actually pre-exists the conversion to Christianity in English, but regardless. So, regardless though, why would it seem unseemly for Jesus to be among sinners? That was kind of his thing. And if he comes again to judge the living and the dead, which is sort of an important part of Christianity, he's going to be faced with more bad people Granted, the last judgment won't occur in hell, but so what? Simon then says
Do you think he'll hang
that
out
the
with Democrats?
harrowing...
Do you think he'll hang out with Democrats?
Yeah.
Never mind.
The harrowing was fervently
Tommy,
embraced in the Middle Ages, noting quite inaccurately that harrowing comes to us from Middle English. Now, it actually comes from Old English, and I have a slide to illustrate the first use of harrowing
Simon.
in this sense. In one of Alfred's homilies, he says that Christ knew hell when it gave up its prisoners through the harrowing of the Savior. So, not Middle English. Simon says, I know I should have resisted constantly saying
No,
that.
you totally should have.
It just made me giggle. So Simon says that the harrowing was prefigured in classical works. So Ulysses or Odysseus visits Hades, Orpheus goes to the underworld to unsuccessfully save Eurydice. And he suggests that, quote, perhaps it's these pagan associations that make the idea so unpopular today. I don't know if he actually means to suggest that Christianity actually borrowed the idea from pagan sources. Admittedly, there's very little scriptural justification for the harrowing. But I'm always suspicious of the, Christianity stole that from pagans arguments. And you'll notice that Odysseus and Orpheus went to the underworld, which is gloomy, but it's not, again, the place of punishment that Simon seems to be suggesting when he says Jesus went to hell. Then Simon says, the Middle English poem of Sir Orfeo conflated Orpheus and Christ in their harrowing. No, it freaking didn't. Orfeo is based on the Orpheus story, but instead of dying and going to Hades, the very, very Celtic Herodes gets kidnapped by very, very Celtic fairies and taken to the land of fairies when Orfeo successfully rescues her. So it's not, I don't remember anywhere in the Bible where Jesus goes to fairyland.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure it's a Revelation somewhere.
Fairy, fiery, what's the difference?
Yeah. So, I mean, in this case, it's not even an underworld of the dead at all, although there are similarities. But it's really an other world. And again, it's certainly not hell the way we usually think of it in Christian terms. So then Simon spends the rest of the article sort of wittering about weird elements of Christianity. There's no question that there are weird bits, as there are for most religions. But his article is just, and also there are rational criticisms of Christianity, but this article is just mind-bendingly dumb. Its premise is dumb, and it's spectacularly wrong. The descent into hell is not some deep, dark secret. It's well-known and well-acknowledged, and in many churches, and it's, as I said, it's affirmed in the Apostle Creed on a regular basis in many churches.
Yeah.
So Twitter leapt in to point out the problems with the article with the hashtag Salon Christianity Secrets. As reported on the website Twitchy, many people pointed out how well known this supposed secret is, and then others then began revealing other secrets. And I'll leave you with just a few examples, and there are links to more in the show notes. But the next slide from Ben Howe, Jesus was a Jew.
No way!
Oh my God! Really?
No, it's true. And
shocking.
Yep, the next slide, again from Ben Howe. Jesus flipped tables in a fit of rage one time. Is this your Christ?
I like his stern look there on his icon.
Yeah.
Is this your Christ?
Yes.
And finally, you not to like his tweet.
Yep.
From David Harsanyi, Jesus and his disciples traveled to Jerusalem for Passover, and you won't believe what happened next.
Total clickbait.
The clickbait Bible.
Yeah. Is there a
Yeah.
clickbait Bible?
So there are many more. And as I said, there'll be links in the show notes. But keep in mind, the mockery is all at Salon. That's what the hashtag is. And Salon does deserve mockery for reposting the article. But it's not original with them. They just repost it from what is theoretically a more prestigious, more academic website. So those people, Religious Dispatches and the Annenberg School, deserve a large part of the mockery as well, though they're not getting it. And that's basically.
Why not? I'm trying desperately to find a relevant book that I have in here on my Kindle. Because
we have a show going on.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's really cool, and it would have been funny, and I can't find it anyway. So the joke is lost.
I can't imagine what would prompt something so dull, like so bad, and then so many people to sign off on it, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and then as I said, I know these are sort of nitpicky things, but it's just riddled with errors.
Yeah.
As well.
There it is.
Yeah, I totally missed this article, but it would have dumbfounded me because the Apostles' Creed is a standard part of the Catholic Mass. Every single Mass, you say it, and in the current translation that the Roman Catholic Church uses, it says he descended into hell.
Descended into hell. Yeah,
so
and it's not just
every single Mass.
Yeah.
So
and
how is this a secret?
Some Protestant churches, the more traditional Protestant churches too, and he does specifically say, that Protestants and Catholics that they're unaware of this. It's like, no, they're really not.
Yeah.
Most of them, many of them, are very, very aware of it. And I don't see anyone being shocked by it because, that's sort of. Well, he says it's was important to Christological thought, and it still kind of is, that he sort of the whole gamut from heaven to hell, saving, sort of essentially going back in time almost, and saving people who weren't capable of being saved because they couldn't be Christians.
Wait. How come he didn't go back in time?
That's a whole different issue.
Wow.
Time traveling.
What about all those other people in the other universes that are curled up dimensions?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would just like to point out that Corey has tweeted a Reddit link. If the Bible had clickbait headlines.
Awesome.
For instance, Solomon sex scroll hacked and released to the public. Read it now before he takes it down.
See, I was hoping there was one like that because, my current favorite is the Lolcat Bible, which is what I was trying to read it.
Oh, that is awesome.
This one weird trick a carpenter discovered. Pharisees hate him.
Oh my God! I've got to check this out. This
is awesome. That's cute.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good.
That's definitely better than anything I've got. Okay.
I don't know. Fighting robots. You had fighting robots today.
No,
that was pretty awesome.
Hush. No more robots right now. Next up, thank you, Eve, for that. That was very entertaining. Tim is going to talk about stuff and things. Apparently, he has got a new tool, and it's not. Oh, it is terrible. No.
It has a terrible name, and I'll explain why I think it has a terrible name. But I've been meaning to talk about this tool for a while, but it's hard to talk about things that are in beta because if you can't use it, what good is it? But they had sort of a launch thing recently, and the tool is called FiskKit. And if you go to my first slide,
That is a terrible name.
Very snazzy looking name, and I'll explain where the name comes from in a second. But it's got a very snazzy design, and essentially it's an annotation tool. It's a little different than the Hypothesis tool that I've mentioned before, because Hypothesis uses a browser plugin and can show you the annotations right there on the original website. This site actually makes a copy of the article, which I suspect they're going to get themselves into trouble at some point. But we'll see what happens. If you click the source link in the upper left, there's some links across the top. It says source, read, Fisk, insight. And if you click source, it shows you the original article in its original form in a frame. Or you can click read, and it'll show you the article with these annotations. So this is a dumb article by Jenny McCarthy in February, and is currently the most shared article on FiskKit, which is interesting that people were debunking this.
Well, it's a popular topic right now.
Right, and she's talking, and the first line is, I am not vaccine and anti-vaccine, and you can see someone put the button false next to it, and then there's a comment right below.
Yeah.
So they go through the article statement by statement and make comments about each statement, annotating them, and then you can vote on the comments on which ones you agree. You can read each person's set of comments, or you can get a unified view. If you just go to the next slide, if you go to the read view and click on a sentence, what it'll do is it'll highlight the article sentence by sentence. So like if you click in that first sentence, it'll highlight the entire first sentence in yellow, and then give you a little text box there to write your comment on that sentence, right? And then I've split this into two slides. So if you go to the next slide, to the right of that text box, you would see this. I split it so it would look bigger on the screen. And it's a nice little set of buttons, and I was hovering over the straw man button, which is why that big explanation of straw man is right there.
Does it have more fallacies?
Right. So you've got some common, common fallacies. You can say whether this is true or false or a matter of opinion. You can compliment something, say that was funny or whatever. So basically, you can actually just go through and hit the buttons and leave sort of comments about what you think about each part of the article, and/or put your commentary in there, and that allows you to, essentially annotate the article. And you can read each individual person's annotations, or if you click the link at the top that says Insight, you go to the next slide, you'll get a view like this that kind of gives you an overall view of what sorts of tags are on this article. So you can see that there's a different mix of fallacies and descriptions and very few compliments, according to the pie chart on the left. But you can see the most common tags are that there's biased wording in this article, there's unsupported facts, there's stuff that's blatantly false, stuff like that.
I guess we could see where Jenny McCarthy fisks. That's the little sliver there.
Fisks.
Oh, right.
Okay.
And right below this sort of graphical view, you would see the article with the most commonly tagged sections highlighted. So like if a lot of people said this one particular section was false, that would be highlighted with a big false tag next to it. So you can kind of get an overview of what all the people who commented on the article did. And it's this project was launched with a Kickstarter a year or so ago, and they've been working on it for a while. It's been in beta. Right now, I think it's still in beta, and I think you still can't add articles to it. The editors have to add the articles. But once the articles are in there, if you can get an account, you can add your own commentary. And I assume they're going to open it up at some point. And it provides a way to tweet the links to the Fisked articles out, the annotated articles, so that's a good thing too. So you're not actually, I'm always telling people, don't link directly to bad articles on social media because it gives them more exposure. This is a good place where you could put some commentary in here and link to this copy of the article. Now, if you go, well, let me comment here about why I think it's a terrible name. The reason it's called FiskKit, if you're not someone who's been on the net for a million years, there's a practice in online arguing called fisking, and it's named after a famous dude who used to do this all the time and back in the Usenet days. And it's when you're answering somebody's message and you answer them like line by line all the way down the thing. So like every single thing you have to respond to. And the reason I don't like this name is because the way the UI in it works encourages you to do that sort of arguing. But fundamentally, I think fisking is a terrible way to respond to people's arguments. Because not every sentence in an article really deserves a response, you know? You should be trying to find the teeth of the article, the core of the argument, and respond to that. And ignore all the little bullshit mistakes, and don't try to correct every single mistake. If you've ever been on an internet forum, you know that when people get into fisking each other's posts, the whole discussion just goes, in my opinion, those discussions just go down a rat hole very quickly, because every single breakout, every time you break out a sub-statement and say, this is why this is wrong, that spawns a whole discussion. Yeah. And all those discussions break out, and suddenly your discussion of what is the core of this person's argument becomes a giant tree of little tiny arguments, and everybody forgets what they're talking about by the end of the message thread. So I kind of wish they had called this something else, because I think by calling it FiskKit and by designing it the way they did, they encourage people to engage in poor arguing behavior, I think. And here's an example. If you go to my last slide, my next slide, I just looked at that Jenny McCarthy article, and here are 3 comments that people put in that I don't think add anything to it. She had a comment, my beautiful son Evan, blah, 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 question one size fits all, and he says, what does his beauty have to do with her skepticism? Pointless. That doesn't advance the argument at all, right? And
someone gave it respect, which, is funny?
And then she says, what happened to critical thinking, and someone tags that funny and puts hashtag irony underneath it.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
And that kind of stuff, but saying let's fisk this article encourages people to do that kind of thing. So, I wish they had chosen a slightly different design, but it's an interesting tool. It's you have to put it in that same category as Hypothesis and Genius.com of annotation tools, because that's what you're doing, and it seems to be kind of the a thing that's coming. Annotation is definitely the wave of the future, but it'll remains to be seen which tools survive and which die. So
I have a couple of comments. Well, first off, if they're copying content as a whole, even if they're interleaving it with comments, I think you're right. They're get in trouble at some point.
Yeah, I think there's an argument of commentary, fair use, because you're commenting on something.
As long as they link, they annotate.
I'm thinking that there's an analogy to Document Cloud, where you capture the evidence, and then there are links.
Well, that's why Hypothesis is built the way it is because you can put your annotations right on top of the original page, because the problem's going to become when you do this against articles that have ads and things next to them, the owner of that content gets very angry if people can read their content somewhere else and not see their ads, because the ads is what pays for the content.
Yeah, especially if it shows up in the Google hits higher. Yeah. So the other comment was, when you first go to a page, like if you're linked, I don't know how they link to this. Is it linked from I mean, do you have a tool that you can link to, look at the annotated version of a page, or
Yeah, you go to
search for it, or-
FiskKit. You go to the top of FiskKit, and there's a search box, and you just paste the URL
Okay.
into the search box, and
Okay.
it'll find you their copy of that article.
How does it choose which comments to show you first?
I think it just defaults to the first person who fisked it, and then there's a drop-down menu on the right side where if more than one person has fisked it, you can
Okay.
view them one at a time, or you can hit the Insight button and see that kind of summary and get that sort of high 50,000-foot view of what the most common comments were.
It's not influenced by the voting?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would imagine it probably is.
Because I mean, I could see the same thing that happens to like
Right.
comments that are voted on for quality.
The Fisk that gets the most comments or the most upvotes pops to the top. I would imagine something like that is going on.
So like the point you made is it could be prone to trolling. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All these systems, they're all in their infancy, so we haven't seen a lot of abuse yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
So, can you imagine how awful it would be if you found out that you had an internet party foul named after you?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I don't know if anybody ever
Fisker,
tracked that guy down and interviewed them.
Like, how do you feel about being the Fisk?
Right.
The
There is there's a little side podcast from On the Media called TLDR,
Yeah.
and they it's kind of on hiatus right now, but they used to do a lot of stories like that where they would
Right.
go and find the original person, like they found the Slender Man guy and talked to
Yeah,
him
yeah.
about what did you think about being the source of this legend. So finding the Fisk guy and asking his opinion would be right up their alley.
Did you hear the one, the TLDR that caused all the kerfuffle?
Yeah.
I never heard it. I just heard the apology.
Yeah, I heard. I listened to it fairly regularly, so I heard both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a copy?
Probably, yeah. They took it down?
They did. I took it down real fast. Just for people who don't know, it's unrelated, and we're just having our after-show conversation a little earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about
and
either.
will be online for years to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you saying, Eve?
I have no idea what he's talking about either.
Yeah.
It was a story about an individual, and the individual did not appreciate.
Got upset, yeah.
Got
It was
upset.
very one-sided
That's usually
reporting.
what happens.
Well, and yeah, in particular because the individual was never contacted, which
Which
it's one
is-
thing to do that on a blog, but
Yeah, but or
TLDR
Rolling
is
Stone.
published by
Sure.
NPR.
Yeah,
and,
it's the first
Was it-
mistake.
Was it Bill TLDR?
It was a Silicon Valley person.
Yeah. Should always call, at least. Come on, guys. Respect. Thanks, Tim. That's another cool tool. Thanks for covering it. I think that's everybody. We're running close to end time, so let's do the wrap up. First up, trivia question. Back to Tim.
Yeah, several people got the trivia question. It was about the Kinderhook plates. Tomorrow is the anniversary of them being revealed or hoaxified or whatever you want to call it. And several people answered in very quick succession. I had to actually go and look at the timestamps
Yeah.
on Twitter to double check, but Alex Murdoch got it first. It was the Mormons or the LDS Church. Corey also got it, and Nathan Miller also got it.
And
Yeah, it
Pierre-
was in when the Mormons started moving west, and when they were in kind of the Illinois, Ohio area, Kinderhook, Illinois. Somebody claimed to have found their own set of plates with these weird symbols on them, and then they were later revealed to be bogus.
Pierre Cloutier on YouTube also commented it, but I think much later, like 5 after.
Yeah.
The other thing, some of you guys, thank you for actually guessing on the videos. And let's see, Alex Murdoch guessed, yes, One of those two videos behind me, the one on on your left, my right, is Age of Ultron, which is supposed to come out in a few weeks, which I'm so psyched about. I'm totally into Marvel, if you haven't noticed. The other one is another Marvel project that had a new trailer come out this week, Ant-Man, which seems a little bit goofy,
yeah.
but it's still a cool comic and still worth seeing. So guys, watch for that one.
I think they filmed some of Ant-Man here in Atlanta.
Yep, it should be cool, in more of a goofy way, which I'm hoping, because I like the goofy stuff. Let's see. Book time, which y'all get your books while I read this stuff. In just over 1 week in Richmond, Virginia, there will be a Raven Con, in which Bob will be doing panels and stuff. You want to say anything about that, Bob?
I have literally no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay, so Bob will be in Richmond and doing stuff. So
panicking publicly.
Yeah, so if you want to meet Bob or hang out with him or ask him embarrassing questions while he's on a paddle, go to RavenCon in Richmond, Virginia.
And Brian should definitely go on Sunday.
Yes, I'm going to try to get down there as well, but I'm no promises yet, but we'll see. Secondarily, Tim will be speaking at Orange County Free Thought Alliance Conference, which is a mouthful. Yep. In just over 2 weeks in Fullerton, California. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it's they have a kind of an umbrella group for the skeptics and the atheists and the humanists and et cetera, in Orange County, a noted conservative bastion in Southern California. So they have a big conference every year in the spring, and they invited me to come out and be one of the skeptic speakers. So I'm going to go out there, and it'll be on the Sunday. So if you want to see me, come on out.
Sweet. I won't be there. I'm sorry. I can't get to the West Coast. Not right now. But have fun, enjoy, and watch out for those wives. Next up, did anybody get that joke at all? Nobody?
Real Housewives?
Real Housewives of Orange County. Is that a thing?
Huh. Yeah.
I don't watch TV. Next,
I think that there's something wrong with connection. The laugh is on delay.
Yes.
Is that what it is? Yeah. We should connect something so that our 2 listeners or 3 listeners can actually push a button and make a laughing noise so that.
No, let's not.
Yeah. That would be annoying, wouldn't it? Let's see. Book time. Who's first?
I'll go.
Let's all speak at once, literally. Go, Bob.
When our son Iago was 2, Steve showed him a magic trick. Steve felt he'd gotten pretty good at the trick and wanted to show it off, but Iago was unimpressed. Here was a kid who was endlessly delighted and entertained by the fact he could blow out a candle, but found something utterly impossible to be utterly banal.
Okay. Eve?
The Christian notion of the body as a sign is deeply implicated in the emergence of the macabre. Christianity, as we have seen, was the first exclusive universal religion to mark out the body as an object of veneration, both in its central sign, the crucifixion, and in its pantheon of witnesses, the saints. The Christian holy body is as fragrant and incorrupt as paradise. Though body and soul were in some ways incommensurate, the body became a central means by which late medieval religion articulated many of its most important ideas. Late medieval religion is, paradoxically, at once deeply interiorized, immaterial, and transcendent, and also somatic, body-centered, and immaterial, and material in its imagery.
Tim?
This place is the Block. Outside the Block is the base, which is Hotel Echo. Outside the base is Region 6, with London 30 miles to the south, and then Beacon another 44 miles further, and nothing else beyond Beacon except the sea. Most of Region 6 is clear, but the only thing that keeps it that way is the burn patrols with their frags and fireballs. This is what the base is for, Melanie is pretty sure. It sends out burn patrols to clear away the hungries. The burn patrols have to be really careful because there are lots of hungries still out there. If they get your scent, they'll follow you for 100 miles, and when they catch you, they'll eat you. Melanie is glad that she lives in the block, behind that big steel door, where she's safe.
I suspect I know this one. Let's see. Imagine that I'm reading this in a Scottish accent, because I was going to do that, but I'm not going to because it's horrible. We met Jose Andres, this celebrity chef, who seems to me as if he'd been hanging around the open bar too long and was banging on a thick Spanish accent and about the wonderful world of tapas. We met a few more broadcasters and the White House types whose names now escape me, and then all of a sudden we were standing in front of Mr. and Mrs. Cheney and being introduced. I felt a little awkward. I'm always a bit shy around evil people, so Megan took the lead. She has a knack for dealing with difficult men and is very knowledgeable about fine art, having worked for a time as an art dealer in New York. She and Miss C struck up a conversation about Picasso, and Cheney's were proud owners of a few of his sketches. "Where do you hang them?" she asked Megan. "Oh, we don't," replied Mrs. C. "They're nudes, and we have grandchildren. We don't want them to see them when they come over." "But they're Picassos," protested Megan. "But they're nude," smiled Mrs. Cheney dangerously. Bob, what's your book?
It's Sleights of Mind.
Sleights of Mind.
Yes, by Stephen L. Macknick and Susanna Martinez Conde.
Yep.
Okay.
I spoke to Tam a couple years ago.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Interesting. Eve, what's yours?
Medieval Death by
Medieval
Paul Binsky.
Death.
Wow.
Death. Is there any book that you own that doesn't
No, she's
have
dark.
that
She's
kind
a
of
dark
art?
chick.
No, I'm just saying that
She's
kind of
so
art
dark.
is on every cover that she ever shows on here.
Yeah.
Her dissertation was on dark stuff. Everything is dark and death and doom and gloomy.
Well,
And there's art of it, too.
that's why we enjoy her so much.
Oh my God.
So, Tim, what's your book?
My book is the one I'm currently... Oh, I can't get the cover to come up.
I don't know that one.
There we go. It's called The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't read that one yet.
And it just came out last summer, and
Yeah.
Jess recommended it. It's very good.
Yep. That looked interesting.
Sort of a post-apocalyptic kind of thing with a twist.
Mine is a New York Times bestseller. I saw this guy do a stand-up show at the Meyerhoff Symphony Hall here in Baltimore, and he was absolutely raunchy and hilarious, and he's actually one of my favorite people that I wish I could meet someday, Craig Ferguson. Yeah. And this book so far has been, it's really easy read and wonderful anecdotes about his experiences in America and being the proud American that he is. So it's interesting. So there you go. Are we done?
Yeah.
We're done.
What's left? Nothing? Anybody ask any more questions?
The answer?
There's one thing, Ben Bradley on Twitter. Do you have a URL for that deleted TLDR?
I replied to that post. I found someone, of course, cached the episode.
Ah, cool.
So I replied to that with a link to some random dude's cache of the deleted episode. So
Okay, cool. One other thing, Nathan. Yeah, I maybe like I said, I have to work it. I got a busy weekend, but maybe Sunday I'm gonna think about driving down to RavenCon. But other than that, that's that. Thanks for watching. Logo.
Peace out.
What's wrong with the music, man?
sounds
It's
like
so
they were
scratchy.
saying.
Yeah, it must have been the wrong setting. The Virtual Skeptics is an independent production of What's the Harm.net, Skeptics and Enemies, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music Kent and used with permission. Very quietly, because it's, I don't want the music is done. It's kind of crazy. We're dancing, I promise. Why are we whispering? I don't know.